Is the Trump administration trying to shift the blame for the controversial strike on a Venezuelan boat to a Navy admiral? A top U.S. Navy admiral ordered a second round of strikes on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat. That's what the White House has now claimed. The double-tap strike on the 2nd of September has drawn bipartisan scrutiny among U.S. lawmakers. The Washington Post recently reported that 2 people survived in the first blast and were still clinging to the burning vessel when they were killed, raising fresh legality questions. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said on Monday that Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the strikes but did not give an order to kill everybody, as the Washington Post report said. Leavitt said Admiral Frank Bradley worked well within his authority and the law in ordering the additional strike. More than 80 people have been killed in a number of similar strikes in the Caribbean Sea since early September. Each announcement from U.S. officials is usually accompanied by grainy video, but in this case, there's been no evidence of the alleged drug trafficking, and few details are available on who or what was on board each of these vessels. The Trump administration says it is acting in self-defense by destroying boats carrying illegal drugs to the U.S. Both Republican and Democratic lawmakers have expressed concern over the report of the 2nd September incident and vowed congressional reviews of these strikes. Karoline Leavitt told reporters President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. However, the press secretary neither confirmed that the first strike left 2 survivors nor that the second attack was intended to kill them. Media reports say Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth had given the directive to kill all those on board this vessel during the 2nd September strike, have renewed concerns about the legality of U.S. military strikes against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean. Hegseth has pushed back against accusations in the Washington Post report, calling them fabricated, inflammatory and derogatory. On Monday, he tweeted that Admiral Bradley is an American hero, a true professional. He has my 100% support. I stand by him and the combat decisions he has made on the 2nd September mission and all others since, he wrote. In recent weeks, the U.S. has expanded its military presence in the Caribbean as part of what it calls an anti-narcotics operation. Trump warned last week that U.S. efforts to halt Venezuelan drug trafficking by land would begin very soon. Over the weekend, the Senate Armed Services Committee said it would be conducting vigorous oversight to determine the facts related to the 2nd September strikes. Republican chairman of the committee, Senator Roger Wicker, has said the lawmakers are planning to interview the admiral who was in charge of the operation. He added that it was also seeking audio and video to see what the orders actually were. The Armed Services Committee in the House of Representatives also said it would lead a bipartisan action to gather a full accounting of the operation in question. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a body of the highest-ranking U.S. military officers, met both the House and Senate's Armed Services Committees over the weekend. Multiple experts have raised serious doubts that the second strike on alleged survivors could be considered legal under international law. The survivors may have been subject to protections provided to shipwrecked sailors or to those given to troops who have been rendered unable to continue fighting. The Trump administration has said its operations in the Caribbean are a non-international armed conflict with the alleged drug traffickers. The rules of engagement in such armed conflicts, as set out in the Geneva Conventions, forbid the targeting of wounded participants, saying that those participants should instead be apprehended and cared for. On Sunday, Venezuela's National Assembly condemned the boat strikes and vowed to carry out a rigorous and thorough investigation into the 2nd September strikes. The Venezuelan government has accused the U.S. of stoking tensions in the region with the aim of toppling the government. On Sunday, Trump confirmed that he had held a brief phone call with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, in which he pressured him to resign and leave Venezuela with his family. According to reports, during the call last month, Trump told Maduro that he could go to a destination of his choosing, but only if he agreed to depart immediately. After he refused, Trump posted on social media that the airspace over Venezuela should be considered closed in its entirety. Maduro reportedly requested amnesty for his top aides and that he be allowed to continue control of the military after giving up the government. Trump apparently refused both those demands. US officials have alleged that Maduro himself is part of a terrorist organization called the Cartel of the Suns, which they say includes high-ranking Venezuelan military and security officials involved in drug trafficking. Maduro has denied the claims. Observers say President Donald Trump's Venezuela regime change adventure is in danger of degenerating into a strategic, political and legal morass. Trump gathered top national security officials and aides at an Oval Office meeting on Monday, seeking to define the next steps in a showdown that now seems to be slipping out of his control both inside the oil-rich nation and in Washington. Trump's Democratic critics on Capitol Hill are warning of a potential war crime, and several powerful Republicans are shaken and signaling a rare willingness to rigorously investigate the administration. The US standoff with Venezuela is now beginning to consume Washington after more than 4 months of escalating political, economic and military pressure, epitomized by the hulking presence of the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and an armada of US ships in the waters of Venezuela. There's increasing scrutiny of Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth's role in the boat strikes. The former Fox News anchor was a controversial pick to run the Pentagon, and his lack of experience, abrasive manner and rejection of some of the military's ethical and legal safeguards is threatening to make him a political burden for the president as Democrats demand his resignation. And the Venezuelan president's defiance is presenting Trump, Hegseth and other top US officials with a deepening strategic dilemma.
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated. And I would just add one more point to remind the American public why these lethal strikes are taking place. Because this administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America and if they are bringing illegal narcotics that are killing our citizens at a record rate, which is what they are doing. And under the previous administration, there was enough fentanyl trafficked into our country to kill every American man, woman, and child many times over. And so that's why you've seen a drastic difference in this administration's policy with respect to the last, and it's one of the many reasons the American public reelected this president and support this Secretary of War in conducting these strikes.